Welcome everyone to Wallen Talks podcast, where we help Christians stop living paycheck to paycheck and build their first $1,000 in emergency fund savings. I am your host, Jason Alexander. Before this show, I was just a newlywed with a decent paying job, but I felt constantly stressed, underwater, just waiting for the next check to come before I can do anything. I said to myself, this could not be what he has called me to, but it was not his lack of a promise to me, but my promise to him to be a good steward. My wife and I got our act together and was able to pay off over $112,000 in debt, including student loans and credit cards, in 28 months. We now have a framework that has helped hundreds save and live and thrive. Today's episode, we're talking about how much should an emergency fund be? So how much does an emergency fund be? It truly depends. It depends on what you want. It is a subjective and objective situation. What I mean by objective, it's subjective because there has to be an amount. Like, for sure, there has to be something that you have. There's something for you to shoot for. There is a dollar amount. You just can't say my emergency fund is $1. That's not enough. You all know that. It's a hard, concrete number, but it's subjective because that number depends in part on you. Now, it also depends on other things like the economy, the cost of living in your area, and whatnot. We're not going to deviate from that. But what we are going to do in this episode, we're going to calculate how much it should be and what it should be for you. So let's get into it. All right. So yes, it depends on where you are in life. So let's talk about these tiers. I believe if you are in a situation where you are underwater and have no savings whatsoever, you have this first tier you definitely have to climb through. First tier, number one, is at least trying to find a way to save $500 to $1,000. Now, when I say save it, I'm going to replace that word with put away. Let's put away $500 to $1,000. Let's put away $500 to $1,000 so that we can have this quote unquote cushion. When I say put away, it doesn't mean that you have to save it necessarily through your paychecks. You could have put away by selling stuff in your home or earning another job, right? Or getting more income in. There's multiple ways you can do it where you are putting away, setting aside whatever extra income you have from whatever income generating process that you do and putting it aside. Why do I say 500 to 1,000? Pretty simple. It really coincides with your auto insurance deductibles. Typically, all Americans, the typical adult has a car, and that car is a primary mode of transportation to get them to their primary income stream, which is their job. If that car fails, they cannot get to that primary income stream. And so the best way to protect that is with insurance. The only way to activate that insurance in the need of a crisis is to have the deductible ready. So typically people have deductible between $500 to $1,000. So that covers your major emergencies right off the bat. So tier one, put aside $500 to $1,000. Tier two is where you have 3 months of bare necessities. 3 months of bare necessities. What are bare necessities? What are bare necessities? Well, they are in this order. Things that you should prioritize your spending on. Right? You do not neglect these at all. You don't neglect these for a trip. You don't neglect these for college tuition. You don't neglect these for your child's summer camp. These are your bare necessities. They are in this order: food, shelter, utilities, and transportation. Food, shelter, utilities, and transportation. I'm saying is if you have these items, you can live on the bare minimum. and still have a decent, wholesome, and a life full of integrity. Now, as we free up cash to get to that dollar amount that's our bare necessities, whatever that total is for those categories, that is what we want 2 to 3 months. And you typically, if you can do that, you essentially can pay your rent, pay your utilities, and get to and from work for at least 1 to 2 months, or search for a job for 1 to 2 months. As you free up cash, then you can shoot for 2 to 3 months of living expenses. That's the everything above your bare necessities. That's the summer camps. That's the trips. That's the Gucci bag, the red bottom shoes, those luxury items that you want to have, that you want to take your daughter out, you want to take your wife out. Those are those expenses added on top of your bare necessities. You want to calculate what that could be, and you want to multiply it by 2 or 3, right? If you have children, you probably want to save some more. This is starting where we get into tier 3 and 4 and 5. These different layers, they're starting to be dependent solely on your situation. Like if you have children, you probably want to double it up, because you might be paying for, you might want to pay for your kids' private school, and you want to have money set aside. If you have one primary source of income, you want to make sure that your child still gets to pay. You still want to make sure that your child's tuition gets paid for. That's perfectly fine. Totally understandable. Then you want to make sure that your child's tuition is paid for and ready to go. Perfectly fine. So if you have children, the more emergency you want to have. No, that's not right. If you have children, the more you might want to consider other things to be part of your saving emergency fund threshold. If you have children, you may have different reasons to increase your emergency fund threshold, but it really is up to you. The industry says 6 to 12 months of living expenses is like one of the ultimate goals. But again, it depends on you once you get to that level. Once you get out of tier 1, 2, and 3, it's all up to you. Now, part 2 is going to be how we get to tier 1. Talk to you later.